on the federal felony indictment against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Two sources are telling us that Attorney General Pam Bondi was caught off guard by the indictment. Let's go live now to CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. What are you learning from your sources, Kristen?
Yeah, and this comes after CNN had already, Attorney General had been hesitant to bring charges against James because of the information that they had heard from Eric Siebert, who was at that time the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. So he's since left that post. Halligan, of course, appointed by President Trump to be district. And we are told Halligan did not coordinate with the Department of Justice on this. That is why these officials, including the Attorney General herself, were caught off guard. Now, it had seemed to be relayed at some point to these top officials, but no actual details were exchanged between Halligan or the Department of Justice main branch on when it was going to happen. So when this announcement came, when Halligan actually secured this indictment against James, it was officials. Of course, as we know, Halligan had brought the case against former FBI Director James Comey. We also know that she had really been tasked with bringing these cases against his political rivals. So the fact that she didn't coordinate, this is usually something with a case this big, particularly when there's a close affiliation with the White House and what we've heard from President Trump. The fact that they didn't coordinate is really something, Pamela.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's any indication from the sources you talked to if it had anything to do with that, where President Trump called on Pam Bondi to prosecute Letitia James, Adam Schiff, and James Comey.
Yeah, and obviously, as we've been reporting today, that was intended to be a private message to the Attorney General. But I do also want to remind you of something after James Comey had been indicted, which was that Lindsay Halligan and the team there on the ground did not have support or help from the Department of Justice for that case either. That Halligan had been briefed. She had never even heard before, and instead she was briefed and prepared by agents and officials, attorneys at the FBI, not the Department of Justice, before she actually went before the grand jury. This time, I am told that she was not by the FBI. She didn't work with the FBI or the Department of Justice before presenting that case and then securing that indictment.
Wow, quite the reporting there. Kristen Holmes, live for us from the White House. Thanks so much.
Evan Perez, I want to start with you.
Many questions.
So many questions. Let's just start on the James indictment, because it is interesting that the U.S. attorney that the president put in place, who happens to be one of his former defense attorneys, was the only prosecutor on the case. So what are you hearing from your sources? Is that because she wanted to be the only one on there, or is it because others didn't want to take part?
So at this point, she has decided she is going to do this alone. She's not going to wait. And the office was actually told to come on the case and refused. The same thing in the Comey case. She was aware, fully aware of the opposition within the office to this case, as well as to the case against James Comey. Obviously, she arrived 2 weeks ago knowing full well what the president wanted. And she decided that she was going to bring these cases and let the grand jury decide what it would. And, you know, we have to say, look, I mean, this is only her second time going before the grand jury. Both times get indictments that she was looking for. In the Comey case, she got 2 out of the 3 charges. But what it shows you is, you know, the president's former personal attorney knows her remit, and she is going forward. Important to him, which has been a hesitation inside the department, right? We've seen this in Trump season 1 and Trump season 2 now. He has
hesitation in the department because this is shattering the norms.
It's shattering the norms. We've never seen the department, what he wanted to do against his political enemies. There's always been that sort of unspoken thing where the Justice Department is supposed to act independently, partly because what you want is the public to have confidence that these cases are being brought on merit and the facts and the law.
Now, the man who the president initially wanted for this job, for the U.S. attorney's role,
a Trump supporter.
A Trump supporter. Well, yes, I was actually going to bring up somebody different. He tweeted out who's a huge loyalist to the president. He's now in the Justice Department doing January 6th cleanup. He put on Truth Social the following: promises made, promises kept. So very lengthy post from the president himself. This is just, tells us what's happening. This underscores that. And that's just 2 days after he showed a photo of himself with Lindsay Halligan, who is that attorney that we were talking about.
We did another one an eagle flying over Brooklyn or New York, a very clear indication of what he knew was about to happen, right? And look, I mean, I think Ed Martin and Lindsay Halligan are showing how this have direct relationships with the president. They can pick up the phone and talk to the president anytime they want. In previous Justice Departments, including in the first Trump administration, there was a separation that only the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, very limited with White House. That norm has been shattered, and everyone is basically like, we don't care what your norms are. This is how it's done now, and we don't really care what people's perception of it is. They're going to go forward. I should say, though, you know, this is a paperwork case. These cases are traditionally, you know, pretty simple for prosecutors to bring and to be able to get a jury to buy into. So she does have a problem here because it is the paperwork. Right, she does.
I mean, to your point about the difference between biggest frustrations of President Trump from his first term in office was Jeff Sessions and how he did not take control of the Justice Department. When you talk to the president's top advisors, that is the thing
even
that
under
he
Bill
wanted
Barr,
to change. For sure,
yeah.
For sure, during the whole first term. And Bill Barr, but this is an entirely different ballgame. So that is what the president is. That's what he wanted. That's what he.
Joining me now is Brendan Ballou, a former federal prosecutor in the DOJ's National Security Division. He resigned in January after the president's sentences of more than 1,500 January 6th rioters. Brendan, thank you for being here. I mean, it's been less than 10 months, and we've gone from Trump pardoning the J6 supporters to the prosecution of his adversaries. Jay was bleeding credibility. How do you see your department now?
It's heartbreaking what I'm seeing. You know, for those of us that started our careers in the Department of Justice, you know, what defines it is not, you know, the buildings, the institutions, the law, the commitment to the neutral administration of the law. And that is being absolutely eviscerated right now. So I'm concerned about the future and the reputation of the Department of Justice, its ability to do its work, not just for this administration, but for the next administration. The fact that by targeting political opponents, you know, Jim Comey, Tish James, these are relatively powerful legal figures. They're going to be able to put up strong defenses. I worry about what these prosecutions are going to do to folks who aren't as powerful and whether speaking against this administration.
Do you think that it could give leeway for people at other levels of government who are other prosecutors potentially in other levels of government to pursue politically motivated prosecutions?
The point of these prosecutions is to politicize the entire administration of the justice system. So absolutely, it seems like there is a green light from the White House to pursue these kinds of prosecutions. I think to the extent that there's any administration is making no effort to hide the fact that these are political prosecutions. You know, Bill Pulte, the housing official, was specifically targeting political opponents and trying to figure out who might have committed mortgage fraud. President Trump famously sent that message to that he wanted retribution. The fact that, you know, Lindsay Halligan had to be brought in because career prosecutors refused to bring this case means that it's actually going to be much harder for them to succeed on the merits here, and that folks like, you know, much more likely to be able to get these cases dismissed on selective or vindictive prosecution.
What you're witnessing here is a collapse and chaos within the Trump regime between Trump, potentially his new appointee, and his attorney general. Because what this suggests, at least, is that while it's very clear Trump wanted this to happen, and it may have been done in his name, and perhaps on his direct order, we don't know the specific details. And this is a developing story. I'll continue to bring you the developments as they come. But at the very least, according to this, Pam Bondi didn't know. Now, does that mean that this person just made the decision totally on her own accord? Or did she collude with Trump in a way that sort of cut Pam Bondi out? Any way you slice it, it's chaos. And we got to remember, the context is, the Dodge has been in utter shambles since Trump got elected, but especially since he came to office. Because, remember, there were people fired for a variety of reasons. Because they investigated the J6 heirs, because they investigated Trump, because they wouldn't stop investigations that Trump wanted them to stop. And there were, of course, people who quit because they didn't want to work with Trump, or people who quit because they were asked to do something immoral and maybe even unconstitutional. And of course, they wouldn't do that, so they left. And all of that indicates to me, in addition to some law enforcement officials, federally, some DOJ people, potentially, but, you know, FBI, and all these types being reassigned from their actual areas of focus and expertise to, like, Trump's immigrant hysteria. Anti-immigrant hysteria has created this chaos. And in that chaos, I suppose, it's quite reasonable that these big decisions are just happening right now. On the one hand, the DOJ doesn't need to, at the top level, know every particular indictment. But from what we've seen, Trump likes a quote-unquote hands-on approach, right? Wink, wink. And the fact that this went beyond Pam Bondi indicates to me there's a real scuffle happening in the Oval.